I focused my energy, everything I knew, into making my body work again. And it did. So I walked out of the hospital, much to the chagrin of the doctors and nurses. Went back to the next duty station. Within a year's time, I was discharged honorably for medical reasons from the Army. I began my rehab in earnest. Now, I'm a thin, weak little guy who's been paralyzed, and I knew, my inner knowing was telling me I needed to rebuild my body temple. My body temple was not in very good shape, so I began to work out. I began to lift weights. I became very strong in a very fast time. I had gone back to college and graduated from Georgia State University in Atlanta, where I was living. And I was working out on some of the very first Nautilus equipment. I became very fat, very strong, very quickly, and I could lift very heavy weights. Well, after college, I moved to California to take up job opportunities. And in California, this was the heyday of Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the illustrious governor of California, 6 times Mr. Olympia, many times Mr. Universe. I was training and working out on the west side of Los Angeles where Arnold was. Arnold and all of the largest, biggest, baddest bodybuilders of all time, where they lived and worked out. I didn't get anywhere big as Arnold and his cohorts. But relatively speaking, somebody that had been paralyzed and was weak and thin, and I converted my body into a strong muscular mesomorph. Large muscles, lift very heavy weights. But I was still limping. I was always getting these questions from these people about, what did you do? How'd you hurt yourself? Why are you limping? I didn't want to answer it. I had been there, done that. I had moved on. I didn't want to deal with it. So I knew I needed to get rid of this limp. So I began to run. I started running, and I ran thousands of miles training to run efficiently. A good friend of mine, actually my business partner, he had a good friend who's had set a record in the marathon. It was the 3rd fastest marathon of all time back in the early 70s. He ran a 2-hour and 10-minute marathon. If you know anything about marathon distances and running, that's pretty good even today. But Bill Scobie gave me some tips on how to run and run efficiently. And I got very good. I could run 10K in about 35 minutes. I could run 10 miles in about 53 minutes. I could run 20 miles in about 2 hours. But all of this running and all of this physical exercising was terrible. It created just a tremendous stress in my life. And this inner knowing that I had was telling me, you need to dissipate this stress. You need to get rid of it. So I checked into various things of how to get rid of stress. Transcendental meditation had become very popular. The Beatles had, actually it was George Harrison of the Beatles, went to India and studied meditation with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. And he got the rest of the Beatles to meditate with Maharishi. So it became very trendy, very popular. And they opened up transcendental meditation centers all around the country. And there was one opened in Westwood, California, close to where I live. So I began to meditate. And I was meditating purely to release the stress. I wasn't spiritual or religious at the time. I just relied on this inner knowing. Didn't know what it was. Didn't know that it was God. But meditation relieved the stress pretty quickly. Now, I've been meditating for 36 years, every day, at least twice a day. For the last 5 years, I've been meditating 4 and 5, 6 times a day for 1, 2, 3 hours a day. And meditation has allowed me to tap into this inner resource of all power within me. This same power within me that allows me to overcome great adversity is within each and every one of you. This power of all creation is here and available. Most people don't trust that. They don't believe it. They're filled with worry, doubt, and fear. They worry that something might not happen or that something will happen. They doubt that there's anything they can do about it. And they fear the worst possible outcome. Well, guess what's going to show up? That which they fear. That's what's going to show up. That's because they're activating the law of attraction. Law of attraction says you gain in your life that which you focus your attention on. So if you trust the fact that everything is available to you and you trust it with earnestness and sincerity, you can overcome any situation. Some of the other things I've overcome is cancer. I'm 10 years cancer-free. I've overcome financial ruin several times. Basically, anything and everything I've ever needed shows up in my life. I don't beseech God to do anything for me, because if you have this connection with the power of all creation within you, everything is given. Everything is given to you. It doesn't say that, unless you believe this way, you're going to go to hell. No. God has given you everything you need. And if you trust this with earnestness and sincerity, you can overcome any adversity. I have many friends in California at Agape who have overcome many, watch out there, Reverend Michael falls off the stage every now and then too. I know many of my friends at Agape who have overcome much more than I have. I have a good friend that's in the choir, the band. He is in the Agape House band, plays the congas. Mr. Idris Hester has had brain cancer, had a tumor, cancerous brain tumor, 4 different times over a 10-year period of time. They told him he was not going to live more than a few months. It's been 10 years, Idris is fine. But that's just one of many. There's many people that can overcome great adversities. And if you trust in the power within you, you can too. There's 5 steps of my spirituality that help me. And that is meditation, affirmative prayer, sacred service, spiritual study, and fellowship with like-minded people. If you follow those 5 steps on your spiritual path, your connection with the power of all creation within you increases. You don't have to beseech God to do anything for you. It's already there, and it'll show up. Now, this is my truth. Peace and blessings.